For more than 3 decades, Nintendo kept bringing back the same Star Fox theme. But at what point does a timeless melody become a played-out crutch? Hello, and welcome back to Under the Tunes. Today we're locking in and covering every game in the Star Fox franchise, which currently ends with Star Fox 2026. And with so many games, the Star Fox main theme has had countless interpretations. But which one does it best? Which one shouts "Animal Space Mercenaries" the loudest? Well, let's pilot a course across time that will see us pass through 4 decades of music. Hopefully the lifespan of Space Foxes are longer than our Earth ones. So, let's jump into the Great Fox and set off from the SNES launchpad. Yes, a triumphant tune that oozes space defense for a noble cause. The classically trained composer Hajime Hirasawa achieves an impressive sound via the SNES that, while held back, still creates a track that stands tall amongst other space operas. The track even has time to move into a lower, more emotional sway, seen in multiple classic scores. The Star Wars main theme is another one that does this same thing. But it's a classical music composition that allows the highs of any main theme to feel even more impactful. A to B and then back to A with a little more fanfare. While developing the game, director Shigeru Miyamoto did have an influence in mind. And while relevant to the SNES Star Fox theme, I believe the influence appears far clearer in our next stop. So, we'll dive into it there. Unfortunately, we never got another Star Fox score from Hirasawa. A fallout between Nintendo and himself occurred due to who exactly owned the rights to his music. He never worked on a new game theme again. Instead, he made his own company called Faith Inc. But what is Faith Inc? Cut a long story short, Hirasawa and his team created audio tech that became the petri dish that allowed these things to evolve and subsequently infect millions of phones in the early 2000s. He's a gajillionaire. I shall elaborate no further. With Hirasawa gone, a new team was constructed for the all-new Star Fox, now with more triangles. Yes, we've jumped consoles to the Nintendo 64, and with all new graphics seems to come an all-new musical identity. Well, not really, it's still all spacey. But a musical duo was constructed, made of Koji Kondo and Hajime Wakai. Kondo is the Nintendo composer. Mario Bros, Legend of Zelda, more Mario and Zelda, basically lots of great stuff. He knows what he's doing. And Hajime, well, this was his big break. Yes, a first-time composer who went on to create many recognizable themes. The game's returning director, Shigeru Miyamoto, had already made it clear that the 1960s British sci-fi series Thunderbirds was a major influence on Star Fox 64's presentation. Yes, the Japanese love that show. And I can't help but wonder if that influence carried into the soundtrack as well. Koji Kodo's main theme feels like it could sit comfortably alongside Barry Gray's classic Thunderbirds compositions. The brass fanfare, the marching rhythm, the heroic flares. All of it speaks the same language that once brought those wooden chaps to life. Sadly, no sax though. At least not yet. But it's established a theme of order and efficiency. It will be interesting to see how it holds up. Oh, we've come across a planet in the rare nebula in our journey. One that seems worth exploring on foot. What an adventure it will be. Yes, in the Fox's third, fourth outing, the English game company Rare were minding their own business developing a game called Dinosaur Planet, which was later consumed by Miyamoto to become a Star Fox game. You see, the characters were fluffy animals. I just saved you several in-depth paragraphs going over the whole ordeal with that one image. Anyway, this game's soundtrack was composed by last week's episode Donkey Kong Country composer David Wise, with contributions from Ben Cullen, and it very much sticks to Rare's original game plan. Forget 1960s sci-fi, the theme here was tribal. Yes, the whole score oozes it, and it makes sense for the setting. And despite this game having quite little in resemblance to past games, Wise does recreate Kondo's theme, but bathed in those tribal elements and big old brass. Yeah, the brass is actually kind of jarring in contrast to everything else in the game's score. But if it's supposed to make the air wings and Great Fox inhabitants feel out of place, then mission complete. Yes, quite the straightforward play. But I'm going to be a bit cheeky here as we look behind the scenes at an unused Star Fox theme that changed up some of the melody a little. Now, like I said, it was unused, but it's interesting to see the composers play around with this theme, almost testing to see how well it can bend and stretch. But alas, the more safer adaptation was the one we got. We're now entering the orbit of this fabulous looking planet. My goodness, this whole place is made up of instruments. What a very unusual visual. Star Fox Assault was created by Namco, and its music was composed by Yoshia Arakawa and Yoshinori Kawamoto, who used the Tokyo New City Orchestra to give Star Fox the true cinematic presence its theme has strived for. Yes, a chunk of the game's scores are these orchestrated versions of Konji Kodo and Hajime Wakai's tracks. And dear lord does it sound great to hear them in the form they were originally composed for. Yes, even limited by the Nintendo 64 hardware, it was always clear they were destined for a full orchestra. If that's not clear with the main theme, then, I don't know, listen to Star Wars theme, that's fucking amazing. And even the obligatory, hey, this is 2005, we need to slap some beats down attitude the era had, works well with this alternative version of the main theme. Yes, this sounds like the version the crew would play for themselves. Assault's score is by far my favourite, and it would have been a joy if they decided to orchestrate some of the original Star Fox themes, as Hajime Hirasawa had the full intent to use an orchestra before Nintendo said no. Well, I think 1993 technology said no, but still, apparently based on co-Star Fox developer Dylan Cuthbert, definitely English, Hirasawa had created his Star Fox track as orchestral versions, only accessible to listen to on tape, but it was never released, and to this day still remains lost to media. But I do wonder if he ever listened to this orchestrated score and let out a "told you so," before going back to counting his wads of yen. But did you know, Star Fox's main theme got another orchestral version outside of the series? Yes, in the extracurricular video after this one, we dive into some Super Smash Bros. Music made for Star Fox, and even more Star Fox stuff. So, where do we go from here? The music reached the point of real instruments to the highest degree. Well, the next game was on DS, so back to the limited soundboard, I guess? I'm sure the DS can play full audio tracks, right? But a DS game has a DS budget, so of course they weren't able to pay for a whole orchestra. And no orchestra is a good way to sum up its rendition of the main theme. As we get a simplified tone that takes the score back to its Nintendo 64 basics. Oh, and look, it's returning composer Hajime Wakai. Yes, Command was a very different game. Full of branching storylines and gameplay that saw you command your team via strategic maps and... well, I'm not sure how much this influenced the score, but the main theme does have this more, I'm thinking attitude. And the MIDI instruments used seem to harken back to Star Fox 64 as well. Maybe this was done in a way to link back to said game, or Hajime's Star Fox just sounds this way. But it's an interesting look at how he adapts his Star Fox collaborator's main theme into something made for a different kind of game. It's an interesting comparison to the orchestral highs of Assault, but it's a score that fits a smaller, more personal game and console. Oh, did we accidentally get turned around? This planet looks oddly familiar. Oh wait, no, we have a remake of the Nintendo 64 game, but on the 3DS. Yes, look, the whole game was recreated in amazing 3D graphics. No, like that 3D that comes out at you. But this isn't the DS we're talking about. No, it seems like the 3DS can play more complex music. And its rendition of the main theme, composed by, well, technically the original composers, but Satomi Terui most likely worked on recreating the themes, as they aren't a simple copy and paste. In fact, this main theme sounds like it's taken the brass element intensity straight from Star Fox Adventure. Yes, overall it's a clearer version of the Nintendo 64, but still keeps to the MIDI instruments. A faithful rendition that purposefully doesn't stray from the path. Which isn't what I can say for our own path. But why does the script say that? Anyway, if you have an itch to see how a remake of the original Star Fox 64 game compares beyond its music, then check out my friend Flandrew's video, where he covers all those intricate details on a far newer remake than this 3DS version. Yes, something that actually lives up to the name of a remake. Go enjoy his breakdown and tell him I said hi. Oh, this planet is all sharp and shiny. Yes, Star Fox is back on the console with a sort of remake? Retelling? Yes, I know. Another one. But this one is slick and saturated. And along with all that, we have a new main theme. The score now has a combination of an orchestral tone with a clean digital wrapping. Yes, a more synthetic reinforcement under the orchestral layer. It's arcadey, in all the best possible ways. Its soundtrack, now composed by a credited 6 chaps, that must have been a crowded keyboard. But the more complex, detailed compositions throughout the soundtrack does feel like the work of many, rather than the more straight-to-the-point classical themes of past games. It's an interesting new theme, one that almost fits in with the rest of the series. Either way, it's a clean track that gives a new tone that makes you believe the game will be an exciting retelling of an old faithful story. Yes, believe, quite like how I don't believe we'll get to our next destination without issue. Again, why does the script say that? This game also does recreate the Nintendo 64 main theme. You can really hear those digital flares here. And in its track for Canaria, they have a little quick moment that harkens back to the SNES main theme. Also, the additional game Star Fox Guard that came with Zero had its own version of the main theme. Even more arcadey. It's just so fun, unlike what's about to happen to our voyage. Okay, something's up as all I see is a clear route ahead of... Oh no! We seem to have fallen into some strange wormhole. We've ended up in an alternative timeline. We're in 1996, where the planned Star Fox 2 on the SNES actually released in 1996 and not 2017 like our timeline. Indeed, this game saw a ton of gameplay improvements from its predecessor. But the Nintendo 64 was so close to completion that Nintendo feared that the game would feel dated. Don't know what they're talking about. So if you remember back, Star Fox original composer left Nintendo to become a very good yen generator. So a composer duo of Kazui Ishikawa and Yumiko Kanaki stepped up, with their past work speaking for themselves. And the main theme goes for a more optimistic tone with a lovely counter melody that plays in the higher tones, helping that optimism. Yes, a counter melody. Well, that's a new word for us. Simply put, it's a secondary melody that accompanies the main melody. It's a quick track that simply loops around, but it's more so the foundation for a ton of tracks throughout the game. Yes, like a planned motif. In fact, the staff roll does explore what this track would sound like if it was developed into a larger theme, like the original Star Fox. And similar to Hajime Hirasawa's theme, this also lays into that calming melody to launch back into the main theme. A to B, back to A. I wonder what other music this game has. Let me look at the track list. Oh wow, what a surprise! This score introduced a character before... oh no! The wormhole is closing! Well, we better get back to our own timeline before we see any more wacky things. My goodness! It shot us out into the far future! Wow! 2026. Oh my goodness, what did I miss? He's so fluffy now. Yes, Fox McCloud got the illumination glow with his appearance in the Super Mario Galaxy movie, with two things making his on-screen appearance work. His completely off-character version here is far more fun, and dare I say, cool. And the film's composer, Brian Taylor's use of the Star Fox theme each time he's on screen. But Brian has done his homework, and here he's actually recreated not only the Star Fox 64 main theme, but also the original SNES theme too. It's stupidly cinematic and makes you wish a Star Fox film was playing in that same screen after the Galaxy movie. Maybe one day. But now, we're going back on track to our final game. My goodness! It's a hyper-realistic version of the same planet again. Fascinating. Look at all those feathers. Yes, as our episode's vessel comes into port, we can't help but notice at how raw everything looks. It's like someone took a picture and played with the sharpness. The newest game, developed by Valen Studios, a company created by past developers of Vicarious Vision, yes, the Crash Bandicoot remake guys, is titled Star Fox, dubbed Star Fox 26 by some, although that then makes Star Fox 64 seem younger than it was. We get a new recreation of the classic Nintendo 64 game. Yes, there's new elements here and there, but the oh-so-reliable core is intact. If anything, today we've learned that if there's a 10-year plus gap for any game, companies panic that a sequel will be too much for new audiences. And I'm sure there's actually some psychological data to back this up, but at least they've taken a brave swing with the art design, which personally I'm here for. Although Fox is back to his more vanilla protagonist rather than his sugar-rushed version from the movie, it's not the exact same as the original N64 game. There's a nice in-between here. But how about the music? Well, it's another full recreation a la Star Fox 64 3D, with the original composers credited once more. But composer Stephen Barton, known for his video game and movie scores, has been brought on to elevate the cinematic appeal, bringing more delicate renditions of softer themes, and more complex compositions that still reveal its Thunderbird's influence all these years later. It's an exciting score that brings the 30-year-old space adventure to the front once more. Well, that was an exciting adventure. All the stops along the way, all the weird things we saw. And most importantly, the changes to the main theme that, while for the most part stood its ground, proved that Kondo's music had been built for far greater sounds than its 90s plastic casing. But even without those fully realised orchestral scores of Assault and Star Fox 26, those tracks worked hand in hand to immerse us into a solar system-wide battle. And if I happened to fall into another wormhole that took me 30 years into the future, I'm sure the same theme would still be there accompanying our posse, probably in the exact same story. So, what was your favourite rendition? I'm still a sucker for the full orchestra, and I adore Assault's version with the beat laid on. It's so unabashedly stanky. For the next episode, we're hopping companies, but we're staying in space, as next time on Under the Tunes... Well, that looks like fun. Thank you all for watching. This has been an absolute ridiculous race to the finish to get this one done, so please do subscribe. I can't promise the same quality for every video, I just had something in mind for this one. But yes, please do subscribe, share this video where you can. Let's get more subscribers. Thanks for watching. Do check out the extracurricular video. It's very silly, very not prepared. That will be releasing a little after this one, so enjoy that. So yes, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time Under the Tunes.